Um, can you see this video, Sumit?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. So you can see the business environment LO2 today, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, Sumit. Welcome to the session 2 of the business environment. And my name is Zafar. I'll be taking this session. Yesterday, do you remember anything we talked about?
No, sir, I didn't get the recorded slide.
Okay. All right. So we talked about the basic business environment and the type of business environment we are working in. Yeah, so you'll get the recording because it's been recorded yesterday. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So today we're going to talk about the structure of organizations in L02, which is learning outcome number 2, to understand the structure of organizations. So we're going to talk about behavior of organization. We're going to talk about 2 or 3 things: the type of organizations we have, or the structures they have, and we're going to talk about the culture of the organizations. So today's lecture will be about understanding the structure of our organization in terms of their culture, in terms of their behavior, and in terms of their management structure. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So when we are talking about the organizational behavior, i.e. the organization, we are talking about a talking organization. You know, the organization is a living organization. It's a living body that has lots of different people that have people in it and who work in it, and they talk to each other. And so when we are talking about the organizational behavior, we are talking about the organizational structure. Okay, we talk about the methods, we talk about the methods where the organization gives or distributes its activities to different individuals, to different people, to achieving its goals and objectives. Okay. When we are talking about organizational structure, we are talking about the roles and responsibilities of different employees in the company. When we are talking about organizational structures, we are talking about how individuals and groups within that organization behave and relate and talk to each other or one another within the organizations to achieve the organization's goals and objectives and aims. Okay, so this is what the organizational behavior in organizations talks about. Okay, so when we're talking about the meaning of organizational behavior, we're studying people in the organizations, and we look at their behavior, how they talk, about their jobs, what do they do, what are the goals they want to achieve in order to achieve the goals of the organization overall. Okay, so that's why we need to study people and their work behavior. Okay, when we are talking about the behavior, we need to study how people do that, how people are promoting their work, how people are promoting their positive work culture. We are wanting to know how people communicate with the different channels, and how are they feeling comfortable in their work, are they improving at their workplace, and to what extent is their work improving in terms of efficiency and effectiveness of the organization, and how how they achieve the organizational goals and so on. Okay, are they feeling comfortable in their workplace, or are they not feeling comfortable in order to achieve the overall goals? Okay, so when we are talking about the organizational culture, we are talking about how or where human resources are arranged in a way that organizations, they help to achieve the common business objectives. Now that objectives can be different depending on the organization's roles and responsibilities of every person, everybody working in that. Okay, so organizational structure is where human people or human resources are organized in such a way, in a way that they help to achieve the common business objectives. That's what an organizational structure is. Okay, and also it's to do with everybody's roles and responsibilities and their communication channels, how they are clearly defined in order to make sure that the organizations run smoothly and effectively. Okay, that's what we are talking about in organizational culture. Okay, so the keyword, there are some keywords that you need to know when we are wanting to understand the organizational structures. Terms like delayering, terms like span of control, words like downsizing, hierarchy, organizational structure, chain of command, and so on. Okay, accountability, responsibility, these kind of words that you need to know in order to understand organizational structures, right? So why do businesses need to be organized? They need to be organized because in order for organizations to achieve their different objectives, or to use their resources effectively, firms need different people to do different jobs so that they fulfill their specific job roles. Okay, we need businesses, we need structures to make sure that the people who are working in groups, they want to make sure that they are working towards their activities. They want to make sure that they are doing what they supposed to do in order to fulfill their daily working activities. Okay, organizational structures, different organizational structures are different for different businesses. So in a small business, such as a sole trader, they'll have a different structure to a business when it's bigger and larger. For example, a smaller business will have what we call them an informal structure, right? Or informal culture because people know each other within a small business. They are friendly and they know what they're doing. Their job roles is not very specifically designed. They do different things. Everybody can chip in, do things that somebody else doesn't do, or they help each other very quickly. That's known as, particularly small traders or even small partnerships. Everybody can do everything. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So one person maybe, if it's a sole trader, he has to or she has to buy goods and open the shop, or go to banking, or do the shelving, or do the stock taking, and close the shop, and advertise, or take the goods to the market or whatever. So they do everything within a smaller business. Whereas a bigger business, it has a different kind of organization because it's bigger, and there are a lot of people working. So that's why we have to have a structure in place so people know what they're supposed to do, and the structure, the duties exactly tell us who is responsible for what job, and who is responsible to whom, and who is responsible to do things that they are supposed to do. So that's why it's very important to have an organizational structure, okay, in place. Okay, so smaller organizations doesn't have much structure in place, but bigger organizations have structures in place. So that's why we need to be able to show. when we're talking about structures, there are different types of structures. There are two types mainly, okay? Mainly two types of structures. One is here. Can you see the slide, Sumit?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
One type of structure, or one type of structure is called the flat structure, and the other structure is the hierarchical structure, right? Or you can say a smaller pyramid and a larger pyramid, or one is with less this smaller pyramid structure, or which called flat organizational structure, has a smaller number of layers of management, and the other organization on this side, which is a hierarchical organization, which has a larger number of management layers, right? So if you see this one, hierarchical organization has different type of layers, 1, 2, and 3, whereas in this one, in a smaller organization, in a smaller flat structure, there's only one layer of management. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So then this is why we call them, one is a flatter structure, one is a hierarchical structure. One have less managers, the other has many managers, and therefore this is known as hierarchical, because the hierarchical means they are moving up towards a hierarchy, one upon the other. So when we are talking about the hierarchical structure, this is what I mean by hierarchical structure, is when you have for example, if you can see this triangle or pyramid, you start from the bottom, which is here. There are many people working at the bottom to carry out different functions of organization. There's operatives, a small number of support staff. Then they have another hierarchy, which is supervisors or middle managers. Okay, they are responsible for looking after these support staff, and upon supervisors, then you have a smaller number of managers who are responsible for different areas or functional areas, like the different functions of marketing, for example, or one will be having an accounting, or the other ones have IT, and then there's an operations, and there's maybe HR, which is human resources or personnel management. So the smaller number of managers will be then employed to look after these supervisors. And then upon managers, there's even smaller number of directors, or the chief executive, or the managing director, or the owner. Okay, so this is a pyramid. This is a kind of a structure, hierarchical pyramid, one layer upon the other, right? Okay, so so this is when we're talking about the hierarchical structure. It has different type of layers. When we are talking about the flatter structure, we may be only talking about the one line of management, and that's all, right? Okay. Moving on to this, what are the, so this is known as the tall structure. A hierarchical structure is a tall structure, as opposed to a flat structure, which has less layer of management, or one layer or two layers of management. Okay, whereas in hierarchical structures, there are 3 or 4 layers, or number of different layers. The tall structure, the advantage in an organization, if it's a tall structure, advantages are it's there's clear line of communication. There is good coordination of activities, because the number of people responsible, one manager is responsible, or span of control. In other words, he's looking after a smaller number of supervisors, so he can manage them very easily and quickly. So that's what we call them good coordination activities, clear line of communication. There is what we call them, the job roles are very clear, and there's lots of opportunities for promotion, and there's a lot of opportunities for development in an organization which has a larger structure, which has a taller structure. The main disadvantage for the larger structure or for the taller or hierarchical structure with many layers of management is that it takes a long time to make decisions. Bureaucratic, it's very bureaucratic, i.e. takes longer to make decisions. It's costly, it's slow decision-making process. People will not be supported very much because, you know, one manager may lose the sight of other person quickly because the long chain of command is long. Okay, so you can get communication gaps and communication problems. So therefore, one person, if they need any attention, if they need any quick things to be solved, they cannot get that attention quickly because the long chain of hierarchy, especially when you're talking about, for example, you know, when we are talking about government organizations, for example, they have lots of tall structure organization, in the sense that there are many managers in particular department, and it takes a long time to make a decision because there are some kind of red tape or there is some hierarchy. If you're talking about a bigger organization like ICI or you know, in what you call them, you know, in different like railways, for example, or in what Coca-Cola company, it takes a long time to make some kind of decisions because the number of employees, number of managers are more, and it takes a long time to get approval from one person to another. Okay, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. If you talk about flat structure, the good thing about the flat structure is it's a quick decision making. One person takes a decision very quickly, and there's less you know, number of employees. Chain of command is shorter, i.e. span of control is big, i.e. span. What we mean by span of control is one manager is responsible for many subordinates, for many people underneath working. We call it span of control. Okay, and what we mean by chain of command is the chain of communication going from the top to the bottom. So if you look at this diagram here, the boss is responsible for 6 people. Okay, so it's a flat structure, a simple organization, and the boss is responsible for all these people, which is 6 people, and that's all it is. Okay, so he's known as, he has a span of control of 6 people. When we are talking about in this, for example, here, if you look at this organization and you look at the boss, which is the lady boss, she is responsible for 2 managers underneath her. Yeah, can you see this? 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay, and this is known as her span of control. So she is responsible for 2 managers. Then when you look at first manager, she is responsible for 1 manager, and she is responsible for the second manager as well. So she has also a 2 span of control. And this manager, second manager, she's responsible for 1 manager. And if you, right, so 1 manager easily can responsible for 2 managers. They can manage easily, or maybe this person, and they're all managing 2. Whereas in this smaller organization, 1 person, managing director, is responsible for manager, and that person is managing everybody. So when in a larger organization, the span of control gets narrow, smaller number of people responsible for. In a bigger in a smaller organization, you get a bigger span of control. You are responsible for everybody. Okay, that's the distinction. And example, a flat structure, you can take, for example, a Unilever. You can have a Unilever organization, which is a bigger organization, which is an international organization. They have a smaller number of units. They have a smaller number of units split into different types of units, like personal care unit, like frozen food units, like other chemicals units and so on. And the person responsible for every unit is a different manager for every unit, and they are responsible for smaller number of people underneath them. Okay. Advantages and disadvantages of a flat organization or a flat hierarchy or a flat business are because you're looking at a quicker decision making. The advantages is faster communication, quick decision making, shorter communication channel. There is very cost effective decision making process, because you are looking at making decisions quickly, maybe on the spot. For example, you're working in a smaller business, you can hire people and then you can fire people very quickly. You can buy materials very quickly by phoning and approving it yourself, or you are take decisions whatever you want to. If you want to buy goods very quickly, you don't need to rely on somebody else to make decisions for you. You do it yourself. Or if there is only one employee, then you are responsible, and the employee makes the decisions, approving from the boss, from the manager. So it's quick decision making, faster decision making, shorter channel of communication. You are responsible to motivate other people very quickly, because then you can tell them work hard, and then you get some kind of a bonus motivating factors. Okay, so this is very good for smaller organization. Disadvantages in a smaller hierarchical structure is because you are responsible for many people, maybe you're not making good decisions, maybe you are not being efficient. Sometimes you made some mistakes, and then it's going to cost you a bit. So in a taller organization, decisions are made for the better of the company. In a smaller organization, you can make decisions, a lot of decisions. You can make something wrong, and that will cost you money, and that's not very good. So okay. Another disadvantage in a flatter organization is there are, nobody to guide you or motivate you, or because you're everybody yourself. You have less cooperation, or less, promotion opportunities, or you have when you are feeling low, then of course that's a disadvantage. Because there's nobody else to motivate you very quickly. Okay, so that can be a disadvantage for a flatter organization. Okay, however, advantages outweigh the disadvantages in a flatter organization, because they're quick decision making and faster and cost effective. Okay, let's look at an example. For example, we had a look at first example of Unilever. We had a look at example of a smaller business. So if you look at this supermarket, for example, hierarchy supermarket, we can see that the layer of the chain of command is bigger, and it's a lot of different people are responsible for different roles in the supermarket hierarchy. Okay, we have team leader, we have store manager, we have area manager, you have a checkout operator, you have director and chief executive. So for example, then what we need to do is we need to rank these in order for us to understand who belongs where. So if I take this, the checkout operator, where do you think this can go? Okay, so this probably goes on to the bottom here, because check operator, there's right at his job is to look after, and there's no only one check operator, but there'll be many check operators, checkout operators, cashiers at the till. So there'll be more than one in a supermarket. They're, right? So we have, then at the top, we can put this at the top, chief executive. Okay, that goes to the top in order for us to look at the supermarket hierarchy. Then probably, I think, director will go into the next layer, and the store manager, okay, or the area manager will be under there, and the store manager will be here, and the team leader will be this here. Okay, so that gives us our hierarchy. Okay, so that gives us our hierarchy of management, or a hierarchy of layer or chain of command, whatever how do you understand? So this is a pyramidal structure or hierarchical structure where you put lots of people at the bottom. Then you have a team leader, a second layer, then the third layer, store manager, then the area manager, then the director, then the chief executive. So there are 6 layers of, there are 6 different levels of employee on this pyramidal structure. And this is a long chain of command. So if somebody wants to, this person, chief executive, wants to talk to the person who's in the till, right? Do you think it will be easier for this person to talk to this operator very quickly, or does it take long to talk to this person?
No, he will come in a series, sir. After director to the area manager and store manager, like that.
So, but would it take long time to talk to this person? It will take longer because the chain of command is very big. This person cannot go and see this chief executive very directly. Can you go and see the president very quickly? An ordinary person can't go and see the chief executive very quickly, can they?
No, sir.
No, because it takes a long time. Because if you want to see somebody at the top, you have to approval from the next manager, and the next manager wants to get approval from his boss, and his boss needs to get approval from the next boss, and so on. So the lot of layers of managers have to be fulfilled before you can see the top man. Okay, because somebody will stop you in the way. Oh no, the boss is not here, or he doesn't want to, he doesn't have the time, or he's gone out on a particular visit, or there's a meeting going on, and so on. So they'll keep you for a long time waiting, right? So it's very difficult for a person at operative level to see the chief executive in very quick time. If it's an organization like yourself, for example, where you can see the boss very quickly, because a small organization, you can see the boss all the time. Yes. Yes, so you can see the manager anytime you want, because he's there. He's very quickly you can make decisions. So that's the main advantage. Okay, when we're talking about the hierarchical and smaller chain of command. Okay. So we talked about the span of control. This is a term that you use, or that we use in organizations to find out how many people are controlled by a manager. This is known as the span of control. Okay. So in your organization, for example, maybe how many employees do you have?
15.
How many?
15.
15. So if it's if it's still a small business, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there is, I'm sure there is a managing director, or the owner is the manager, and he controls 1 or 2 other managers, and then you have a bottom people working at the organization, right? So the people, how many people you are responsible for? Sumit, everybody?
Just for 2.
You are responsible for 2 people.
Yeah.
So people you are responsible, and what do they do? What job do they do?
They are managers.
Okay, so you manage 2 people. So very easily you can manage 2 people. So you got a chain of command or span of control of 2. right?
Yeah.
Then
And they are
those
controlling the salesman and drivers and
Yeah.
employees.
Okay, and each manager is controlling 2 or 3 other employees,
Yeah.
right? So this is a span of control of 3. So you are controlling 2 managers, and these 2 managers are controlling 6 other people, 3 each. So their span of control is getting wider, and the more wider the span of control is, sometimes it gets difficult to control because of communication problem, because of the lack of coordination, because there's too much workload. And so therefore one manager can easily control 3 people. But if it gets 4, then it gets too much. Okay, not easily manageable, because you have to have meetings with them, you have to give them time, you have to control them, you have to communication, ask them feedback, and so it takes longer to make decisions. So span of control is a term that you use in management structure, how many people one manager can control. In this organization, smaller organization, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So one person is controlling 9 people. Yeah, this one here. Yeah. And then this organization, one manager is controlling 3, and then this person is controlling 2. So the we can say the chain of command span of control is 2. Okay, but the layer of managers is higher, hierarchy is more. This is a flat structure, and this is hierarchical structure or tall structure.
Yeah.
Okay, chain of command is chain of command. Again, we are looking at the amount of information and instruction flows from one manager to the other. This is or who's the flow of manager, what type of communication or the direction of information is flowing from the top to the bottom. Okay, that's known as the chain of command, the direction of information and instructions from when it flows from the top to bottom, and that's known as the chain of command. Okay, so in this diagram, the chain of command flows from the top to bottom and to the managers. So the red box shows you the chain of command flows down, and then the green box also shows the person is responsible for. These people are the arrows are talking to these subordinates, and the people underneath them are getting the information, direction of information from the top. Okay, so chain of command is where who's responsible and who is getting the direction from where. Okay, when we're talking about the delayering in organizations, we are talking about the levels of organization, which are called the layers of information or the layer of management. So in this hierarchical structure, if you can see this diagram, there's 1, 2, and 3 layers of management. In a flat structure, there's 1 layer of management. So when we're talking about the delayering, we're talking about how we can reduce the number of managers in organizations. And this is very important when we're talking about the level of managers in organizations. So you need to know about this term delayering as well. Okay, so this is so we talked about organizational structure, hierarchical and flat structure. We talked about the span of control. We talked about the chain of command. We talked about the responsibility and accountability about this people in organizations. Now we come on to the another structure of organization, which is known as product structure or a brand structure. Okay, a product structure is where an organization is divided on its different types of products. Okay, different types of products. For example, if you are talking about this organization called Hewlett-Packard, this makes this is a technological company. Have you heard of the Hewlett-Packard? Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Having different kind of printers, laptops.
Yes, so they are yes, a technology company or IT company. So they have a kind of brand structure, or what you call them, product or brand structure, whereby they have, for example, one department responsible for financial services, right? One section is responsible for Hewlett-Packard services, not the financial services, but general services, administration. Okay, one is responsible for systems department, and the other one is responsible for personnel systems, i.e. HR, right? And then another product or what you call them, brand department or brand structure. They follow the printing group, right? So they are split into different different brand or different product structures, and they manage this type of structure because it's easier for them. So it's clearly they focus on the market segments. So this particular printing group, for example, or printing department or printing structure will be responsible for printing printing materials, or printing brochures, or printing publication or publicity, and they will target their market, they will target their customers according to their objective, right? They want to make sure that they reach their customers clearly, right? They don't do any other thing apart from focusing on the publicity materials, right? Okay, so this is why the product structure is advantageous, because this company can focus on the target market, okay, to meet the customer's needs. People who need printing, they'll be consulted with this company on only brochures, and they'll talk to them and they'll meet their customer needs. It's good in the sense that gives you a better control on divisions, or it gives you a better control of the profit center. So this department, it has its own budget, it has its own income, it has its own cost, it look after its own market. And why is because it has more control over its budget itself. It doesn't need to go and ask it doesn't need approval from the manager from the Hewlett-Packard company. It doesn't need to go there all the time, because they've been given a budget, they've been set a cost, this is known as the cost center or profit center. Okay, so they will manage everything themselves. Okay, whether they make a profit or a loss, they have to do it themselves. Okay, they are responsible, and it promotes positive competition, because if it generates a lot of profit, if it generates a lot of publicity, if this division or this group, then you can compete with the other group. For example, HP services, they can compete with each other, and who is doing better, they will get a kind of promotion, or they'll get a kind of prize, or they'll get some kind of other party, or they'll kind of get maybe holiday, or maybe a kind of good promotion for itself. Okay, the disadvantage for this type of structure, or which is the brand structure or the product structure, is this may be doing the similar things to this. If they are promoting, maybe they are also promoting, so there are duplication of resources. One person is responsible for doing different things, but the other person is also responsible for similar things. So there's duplication of functions. Do you understand duplication?
Yes.
So this person may be responsible for marketing, and this person here also may be doing the marketing in a different way, but they are duplicating. And this department will maybe have also something to do with promoting their products onto different channels of things, radio or newspaper, but they'll still be marketing. Okay, so there are many duplications, so that's not very good. Okay, and it has if there's a lot of duplication, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of resources and waste of competition, and there's lack of control who's doing what. Okay, so this is the main disadvantage of this type of a structure. All right, the third type of structure, we need to look at the geographical structure, which is looking at the same organization, Hewlett-Packard. They divide their business, they divide their market, total market, into different regions. Okay, so you have a regional manager, for example. You divide your market, you divide your company into different regions of the world. For example, one person is responsible for looking after the markets in America, and one manager is responsible to look after Europe or Middle East or Africa, and one manager is looking after another area, or Asia Pacific. So if you have an organization like a Hewlett-Packard, they have 3 different managers to manage 3 different geographical locations. They do similar things, but in different regions. Okay, so you have different regional managers responsible for each of their territory. Okay, so they do everything in their remit, in their job specification, but for their own region. They can't, this person can't sell their product, for example, from Europe, okay, or can't sell their product to Europe because he's responsible for America only. All right, so anytime he gets any sales or any queries or any inquiries, they will be directed to this person only for America. Right, even if you want to have a sale in Asia, then they'll have to be redirected back to this particular region. Okay, so geographical structure is where you are responsible for your own geographical regions. You have so different organizations will have specific divisions for each location, and each location acts like a company, and they are responsible to generate sales, they are responsible to recruit people, they are responsible to buy goods or sell goods. Yeah, and they have to buy equipment, but for their own company as it is owned. Okay, so they can't go to another manager and ask them to do, because that manager is responsible for their own region. We have a sales representative, they have their own territory. In your company, in your organization, you have 2 managers. Yeah, you have 3 managers. Each person will have their own region. Is that right? Geographical regions. So they are the managers for, say, one's responsible for KPK. They have a responsibility to sell all the products in KPK. Then the other person may be responsible for Punjab. Then the other one responsible for Sindh or Balochistan or other region, right? They are split into different geographical locations. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Or maybe one person is responsible for looking after one city only, right? And the other person is responsible for one city only, and then the other person is responsible for other city only. So they've got 3 cities for 3 managers, but they are different cities. They are managed different customers, but in their own location, right? So anybody who wants to get sales from the other region will be directed toward that manager. Please talk to this manager because he's responsible for this region. Okay, so this is very important because every manager is responsible for their own region. Okay, advantage of this geographical structure is advantages is know the people, you know your local area. So one person, if they're responsible for one city, they know the city very well. The other person doesn't know. They know the customers, they know the business, how it behaves, how the competitors behave in this particular region. They know the local firms, and they can talk to the customers, they can serve them better. Okay, and they be more cost effective, and they make quick decisions. Is that right in your case?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, is that so, or is it not so?
Yes, sir.
Right, and the main disadvantages for this geographical structure is one person may be duplicating the resources. So one person is probably doing the same thing as the other person, and the other person is doing the same thing as the third person as well. So there's duplication of resources and functions, because the three are doing the similar things, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the three are doing the similar things, because they're selling, they're recruiting, they are going to see the customer. So everybody is doing the similar thing. So the three are repeating, the three are duplicating their resources, and they are doing the one task three times, in other words, rather than one task one time only, and doing it effectively. There may be some kind of jealousy between these people. One region is doing better than the other one. There may be conflict of communication, or there may be a jealousy or hatred or conflict or fighting or arguments between one person and the other regional manager. Or, for example, why did you do less business this month, and why did I not get customers as you did? Did you not get your target, and why did I get more? So there, this might conflict between central manager and the regional managers. There may be some kind of problems because of the communication, okay, or because of the local and central needs are different. Okay, so this is why, but they are all operating, but the main thing is they're all under operating independently. The three people are independently running, and they're doing their own things, right? They don't need to consult with each other, but they are still in competition with each other, and they might, okay. So when do we use this geographical location? Is when we are talking about different people, when the different needs, or the different regions or different languages. For example, one person speaks Hindi and the other person can't speak Hindi, so you split up the region into Hindi speakers, and the person who's responsible is a Hindi speaker, looks after Hindi people, and the person who can speak Urdu, or who can speak Pashto, or who can speak English, they talk to the customers in that particular language, in their needs, because the culture is different, the needs are different, the language is different, the customers' rules are different. So you employ particular person, particular people from that particular region to communicate easily and to get the markets easily. Is that so? Because people who, for example, I can't speak Pashto. So if I can't speak Pashto, I cannot talk to my customers in Pashto because they don't, I don't understand them and they don't understand me. So I cannot, be a manager where to explain things that a Pashto speaker can. Okay, so you have to look at this geographical region or structure when you're talking about this different regional languages, regional differences, different cultures, and people are different. Okay, this is when we use geographical structures, right? So what we talked about, we just to summarize,
geographical structure.
Yeah, we talked about the geographical structure. We talked about the product structure, like here, product structure. We talked about tall structure. We talked about the flat structure. We talked about the span of control. We talked about hierarchy, we talked about delayering, we talked about the chain of command, we talked about the pyramidal structure, we talked about the flat structure. All these terms are very important in order for anybody to understand organizational structures. Okay, so these are very important terms that we have come across in organizational structures. Okay, now we come on to look at organizational culture. Okay. Okay, so this one, the second main sub title of the lecture is to look at the organizational culture. Okay, so we talked about the structure. Now we're going to talk about the organizational culture. Now this, do you know anything about the culture? You know what it means about the organizational culture? Or
Yes.
what do you understand by organizational culture, if I may ask?
Organization culture is what people they need, what they are in, what they are need, and what are their expectations from the products.
Yeah, but that's not culture. That's not a culture, not organizational culture. Organizational culture is your perception in your mind about a particular organization, about the image that you have about this particular organization, or image that you have in your mind about this particular organization, what organization looks like, what do you expect it to do, how does it behave, how do you what do you think about its people working in there, what type of building it will have, what kind of people it will have, what type of qualities that organization will have. You understand?
Yes.
All this is to do with culture.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about organizational culture, it's the image that you have of that particular organization in your mind, your expectations, your practices, your your hopes, your values, your imagination of that particular organization. So for example, if you are looking at, if you are talking, what does a bank look like, for example, and how it will, you will think that bank is a big building, you'll think the people working in the bank are smartly dressed, you think that the building will be very clean and it will have modern equipment, it will be having educated people, it will have a kind of nice and good atmosphere to work, and the salary will be very good, the benefits will be good. Yeah, the quality of the service that you will get from a particular bank will be high quality, right? You will be having a good talk with people, educated people. Is that so? Yeah. So
Yes.
when you're talking about organizational culture, you have this image. As opposed to when you are talking, for example, in a small corner shop, for example, when you have a corner shop, what do you think that corner shop will look like? You have a different image of the small corner shop, right? Maybe the corner shop will have a not very clean. It'll have a small number of products. It'll have a few or one person working in that shop. It will be not very clean. It will maybe have a good lighting, or maybe it doesn't have good lighting. Maybe it doesn't have a good seating, or very high class products. Yeah, or not very expensive products. They will not sell very expensive because people don't go into buy expensive products in the smaller shop, right? So you have, or the owner or the manager will not be wearing suit and tie, as opposed to a person working in a bank wearing suit and tie, for example. Yeah, and so you have different image, correct? A smaller shop, and you have a different image of a smaller shop and different image of a bank. So this is to do with organizational culture. Organizations, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and you talk about other organizations like, for example, organizations like Army, for example, or organizations like local, what do you call them, councils or committees, you know, union councils, for example, or other companies. So every organization is different. Every company will have an organization will have a different organization culture, different different imagination of people. When we are talking about Toyota, for example, Toyota company, you know, you have a different perception of this particular company. Yeah, different showrooms,
Yes.
different showrooms, different models of car in particular showroom, how it will be decorated, how the customers relationship is there, how the sales people will behave, and how you will be welcomed or not welcomed, the model, all this perception. So when we are talking about the culture in organization, we are talking about symbols, we are talking about the style, we are talking about the logo, we are talking about the dress code. When we are talking about the formality and informality of people, we are talking about you know, different logos, pictures, imagination of different organizations. And so this gives you a different feeling of culture. Okay, different rules, different expectations. So in a bank, you expect everybody to come in time and go in time and leave in time. Yeah, in a smaller shop, sometimes they are late, sometimes they are closed, sometimes they go very late, 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so there's no you know, 100% timekeeping, right? Sometimes they take a holiday, and sometimes they close late, and sometimes they open late, and sometimes the owner is not there, sometimes the customer is not served properly. But if you go to a bank, all the time they will open at 9 o'clock, they will close at 5 o'clock, the manager will be there to have any problem, then you can see them. Or people, you know, you expect people to be in there to serve you on the counters, and when it's dinner time, they'll be closed not to serve you. So you expect this types of ethical issues and norms and rules to timekeeping. They will have some kind of training. In a smaller organization, there is no training, there's no kind of you know, customers value or continuous promotion or a salary rise, or so do you understand all this type of so different cultures in different organizations will have a different rules and different timekeeping, different expectations, and different perceptions. Okay, so when we talk about these cultures, we talk about power culture, we talk about role culture, we have a task culture. Okay, a power culture is when you a person is making decision by themselves and is more powerful, and the top people are making their own decisions, and they take all the decision by themselves. Then there is a role culture, when you have a clear line of responsibilities and clear roles, who's doing what, when, and they take you know, they take this roles, responsibilities very clearly. And the task culture is when you are asked to do something, you get this task, you fill it by deadline, by target, you do the next task. And so you expect this to be done in organizations. In a smaller organization, everybody does the same job, power and role and task is all the same. Person does it. In a smaller organization, like you know, one-man business and two-man businesses. In bigger organizations, they are different in different cultures, right? And person culture is also very important, that you know, looks at a person is expected to do something. For example, when you are talking about an organization where the doctors are employed, you expect this doctor to be very responsible, you know, very learned, very focused. He doesn't talk rubbish. He only talks about his job, and he does his job good. Okay, so when you talk about lawyers or architects or professionals, they are focused on the power, not rather than the power culture. They are focused on the skills and the person culture. Okay, okay, so okay, example of another organization, expectation of a Tesco. You know, the bigger organization we're talking about in the UK, a supermarket called Tesco. A Tesco has a culture of respecting people. They have a culture of managers always there to help you. They have a culture of making the job very interesting. They have the culture of making sure that they are there to serve you better and you know, all the time. So so this is their culture, to serve people better all the time. Okay, so they have a kind of a different culture to another organization, you know. In conclusion, what I like to say is just, we talked about the different cultures, organizational cultures. We talked about the types of culture, type of structure, like tall and flat and geographical and divisional. And we talked about the culture, which is person, task culture, so role culture. And we gave you an example of a smaller organization and taller organization. Talked about the Tesco. The culture is to serve better and to treat everybody with respect and so on. So you don't get this in every organization. Every organization is different. This is we've got to, when we're talking about the structure of organization, we need to talk about their structure as well as their culture. Okay, so this basic L0 or LO2 was to talk to you, or to make you understand about the structure of organization, and about the different types of structure of organization, and about its culture of organizations. Okay, and I would like to say, I would like to end my conversation here. If you can ask me any question that you don't understand, then I'll be able to help. I'll try and answer it. If you have any question, just try it away. And if you don't,
no, sir.
Are you okay with everything?
Yes.
Okay. And I would just like to say thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
And, do you have another session another day, or is it tomorrow? Or
tomorrow is the session.
You have it tomorrow as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you don't have any question, I'll say see you tomorrow. And thank you very much for joining.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.